All right, it's been a little after 9 o'clock. We'll bring the Facilities and Property Management Committee to order for July 13th. First agenda item is approval of the minutes of June 8th, 2022 Facility and Property Management Committee. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on, correspondence. Any correspondence from the committee? Any correspondence? Any correspondence? All right, hearing none. Moving on to public input on agenda items. Any public input? Any public input? All right. Yeah, hearing none. Item number 4, discussion and approval of easement for the WPS utility connection for the Parkview training facility.
This is really just a basic easement. After Wisconsin Electric took over WPS, they've now required easements for running services to any, at least commercial buildings. And this is that easement to get the gas and the electricity to the training building just down the street. The easement has been modified as has been requested in the past to remove any of the extraneous things that might be put in the easement at the request of Supervisor Borchert. And it's pretty much, we got to do it. If we don't do it, we don't get power.
Yes.
Fiber optics, is that thing?
That's ours.
Is that already there? Is it?
Yeah, that's going in. That's ours, so it's on our property, so we don't do an easement to ourselves.
Is this typically how this goes, that the easement comes after at this late of the game, or is this something that should have?
They haven't installed they won't install the utilities until we have the easement.
Okay. Is this like the typical part in the process where this?
It's probably a little bit later.
Okay.
Because WPS hasn't changed their process with modifying the boilerplate easements to the way we want them. So they sent us the original easement. I said, no, you need to take these things out. Went back to them. It came back to us the day after our last meeting. So I couldn't get it to you guys last month, but it would be a little bit earlier in the game had they gotten their easement wording correct.
I can make a motion to accept this.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, a motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Mike, update on the 980 housing project.
Well, you all approved it. We've had an initial meeting with the city, and they are working with us quite well to get the project going. I've got an architect who's giving me a proposal for what it will cost. And we're trying to work with them to make sure that with the city that what we do is compatible with what they want. They understand the predicament everybody's in. They think it's the best place to put this type of facility. What they would want us to do is figure out the maximum number of units we would want on that parcel. But we don't need to build them all at one time. They just want us to come before city council and planning committee with what the maximum number we would want. Because in the words of the city, you know, they would like to deal with this one time and not keep bringing it up before the public to get everybody all riled up.
That makes sense.
So what we're looking at is probably getting 3 of them going right away. Hopefully we can get one finished real quickly. We do have one individual that is coming out that really needs more care, not necessarily supervision, but more healthcare care than what can be done in the trailer. So he really can't get services from Human Services till he's actually a resident in the county. That doesn't happen until he's released. So he may be in the trailer sharing it with the other one for a short period of time until they can get him into the correct senior type facility for him. The other individual we've got in the trailer right now is going on, he's been there like 2 years already. And they've said he's been a model resident. He's met all his criteria, and they are actually thinking that he may be released here in the near future, which would then open up a space in the trailer. We have another person coming out that we have a first court hearing sometime in August. And what we're hoping is that we can lay out our plans and what our goal is to do, that we can at least have the judge say, okay, I understand, you've got so many months to get this all built so that the person has the space. That's pretty much where I am right now. Hopefully we'll we've got our first design meeting tomorrow with the architect. We can start talking about how we can accommodate what our needs are and what size parcel we have to get going. With the city, I don't think we'll have any kind of problems with the city getting stuff through. They did say holding tanks are probably more reasonable than trying to get us to the sewer. So engineering is going to go back and take a look at it. But it looks like right now I don't see any roadblocks other than getting a contractor, materials, and labor to get it built.
You said that you're going to talk to the city and hopefully how many units you're going to have. Well, I know that we've approved up to 6. Are you
Yeah.
thinking about possibly adding on when you talk to the city, like saying at 12 or 18 or?
I don't know. I got to talk to the county executive on that. We basically kind of said 6 should get us through. So, we'll go with 6. But the city's saying, if you can get 8 on there, go for 8. Not that we are going to build 8.
Right.
So that would be down the future, so to speak. I mean, like if something does crucial happen, how long would it take? Well, 2 questions actually enrolled in the one. So how long would it take to actually build these once they get it done, or don't you know that answer yet?
That's kind of hard to say. I'm saying 9 months to a year, just because getting materials, lumber prices have come down a little bit, but doors, windows, those are still long lead time items. Condensing units for air conditioning systems are still long lead time type items. So it's hard to say, if everything was readily available, we could probably get it done in 6 months. But we're having problems where we can't get exhaust fans for the building we're building down the street until December. So we're looking at what can we do to get the occupancy permit and start using the building before we get the fans that we really want. So that's one of the issues. The other one is with the 980s, we don't know how many people are going to be in the 980 program. It's not until they're done with their criminal incarceration that they get reviewed, and then the state would say, well, you're not fit for release on probation or parole. You're going to be civilly committed to Sandridge and be part of the 980 program. So like right now, we know over the last 2 years, we had 8 to 12 people in Sandridge. Some of them have been released directly out into the public. They didn't go into the residential areas that the intense supervision. And then some of them have been released. We had one or two of them in Wolf River. We've got one in the trailer now, so that's three of them. Like I said, we have one individual coming out that has some significant medical needs that probably really needs to be in some kind of a skilled nursing facility or actually a memory care type setting, rather than on his own in any one of our buildings. But the people that are still in like Waupun or Oshkosh Correctional or anything on sex offenses, we don't know if they're going to be classified as 980s until they actually get ready for release. I don't know if that answers your question.
That does. Anybody else?
I was just gonna ask, are they detached units or attached at this point? Just want to be clear. We're not-
That's one of the things that we're trying to work with the
Still,
city,
okay.
because they have regulations on how many water services they can run to a parcel.
Mhm.
So we're looking at the ways that we can do zoning to do it. The architect is suggesting we have like duplexes so that we save one exterior wall. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out for us. Originally, we talked about 2 units of 3 each. We might stay with that. It depends on how we'll be working with the city on how it matches what their zoning will allow us to do and what we can do with getting services to the building.
Weren't you at one time talking about 1 unit of 6? All
Yeah.
6?
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna be.
Well, we're working through a lot of different things. Our interpretation of having people under one roof would be like a family. A family is one family under one roof. If you have a row of townhomes, you all aren't living under the same roof. So we're trying to argue that a little bit with the state yet. The state's thinking that that's not, that our interpretation is okay, but they also have a belief that we shouldn't just be able to buy, let's say, like an apartment building and put all of them in one apartment building. So we're trying to play the game of how can we have an area where we can put these individuals, but not run afoul of, well, you've got too many people in one area. So we got to come up with some more of our ideas on how we're going to do it so that we can show the state what we want to do. Probably not get an answer from the state, because the state has never really told us on any of our projects up front whether they'll accept it or not. It's more like, we'll tell you when you do something wrong, but we won't tell you when you're doing something right.
God.
So we're doing the baby steps right now, and whichever way we can do it that we can meet all of our needs, the least expensive way,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and do that. So if that's going to be 1 unit with 6, we would probably do that. If we have to split them up so that they're not considered an apartment building, then we'll probably, we might do 2 units of 3, or we might have to do 3 units with 2 as duplexes.
Are they required to stay in the unit at all times?
Mhm.
The way it works is they initially can't leave the confines, the 4 walls of their unit.
Okay.
As they've demonstrated that they can assimilate back into the normal, regular population, they get more freedoms.
Okay.
So like right now, the guy living in the trailer is actually outside and he can mow the lawn. But he cannot leave the parcel without an escort.
So if you had the duplex, triplex option, sort of the row housing each side, couldn't you put fences in to have separate courtyards for the people that
We could,
can't come outside versus people
but
that can't?
they really can't come outside.
No, okay.
I think the guy can come outside, but he still has to have one of the, is it a probation agent, has to be there
Well,
with him while he mows the lawn.
Supervisor, yeah.
But,
okay, so maybe that would be too hard to manage then too. Just toss some ideas though.
yeah, we put the fence up around the one that we've got because there was concerns from employees around there, but you know, the sheriff's department said they've had no calls for service with the individual at the trailer. And that he has been considered, you know, a model inmate, model resident for the time frame that he's been there.
Or they have to deal with privacy aspects of it too. Well, you know, not only for the, between the units and the individuals there, but the public at large. To an
So-
extent, it's not really a prison either.
So are those facilities locked all the time, or how do you know if he never leaves, or she or he never leaves?
He wears, the individual
Oh, they
wears a
wear a
bracelet.
bracelet, that's right.
And,
Okay,
and,
okay, yeah.
you know, they say GPS is so accurate, they know if he steps out the door. They
Okay,
know
so that's-
quickly enough if he steps out the door.
Right,
But you know, my opinion is the restrictions that are put on these individuals, I would have just stayed at Sandridge.
Yeah, I would have too. Yeah.
Where I have good
You know,
computer. I don't-
No.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they can watch on over the air TV because some of those
Yeah.
programs.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
No,
I've never been in there, but supposedly no TV, no internet, no nothing.
no, definitely not, definitely not.
Where
no.
is Sandy?
You know, and there's nobody there to talk to. I mean, you know, that's to me, that's solitary confinement, and that's almost, in my book, cruel and inhumane.
I think we're nuts, for sure.
Yeah,
Do you think there's ever going to be a chance where the state is going to rescind this whole program and say, this is costing us too much and it's not really doing the job? I worry about having all 6 units built.
That's a good question.
well, that's where we're thinking, you know, we'll probably get 3 of them built and see what happens. If we have 2 of them there and that we know we've got like more people have been released to Sandridge and we kind of know what we have in the future, then we can relook at it. And that's one of the concerns I've expressed to the county executive and core council is, you know, it's real hard for me to tell you guys that I want to spend $1 million on a program that, you know, is unknown.
what the state legislature did, they can undo.
They can
And
undo
that's
it.
that's been our kind of, I've been voicing that concern since day one about if we had like a tiny house, then you could take that, you know, and easily move that. You build a 6-plex,
Yeah,
you're not just chopping off the roof and moving that over. That's what has been my concern since the beginning of this. Why, you know, why don't we do something that's sustainable? It's been from jump has been my concern.
with the duplex or the single units even, could you move them off a foundation? Could you have?
They
one where
move
you-
homes. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
these are, we're not proposing really spacious places.
Yeah.
You know, they're designed to be the minimal size that we can still accommodate ADA.
Yeah,
We,
Um,
we had talked about, like I said, the tiny houses,
Yeah.
right? When the county executive was elected, that we had Mike look into that. You know, they're single units, they're just built like a Conex box and they're movable
Well, and
later.
that's one option that the architect right now is working on something out towards the Madison area with container homes.
Yeah.
as long as it's on a foundation, because the city didn't necessarily have a problem with trailers, right? So,
Yeah, it's, you know, this is all, when we built the trailer, because nobody was gonna be driving there, I wanted a limited impervious surface, so we put in drivable grass. And that is something that our zoning really, the city zoning really doesn't address yet. You know, they want us to mitigate stormwater runoff, but yet when you want to do something like drivable grass that's permeable, it's like, well, no, you need to have an asphalt or concrete driveway. It's like, but nobody's going to be parking there. And that's one of the things that the city kind of worked with us on this, to make sure that we have our parcel guaranteed to be 1,500 feet or more away from anything that could affect its use. They're saying, well, you know, we would allow you to put parking someplace else, so that we don't have to have parking associated with the parcel, so that we don't, it'll reduce the amount of space we need for what we want to do. So they were coming up with some ideas to help us guarantee that if somebody would buy the land south of the jail complex and build a subdivision or a school or playground or something like that, that they would maybe get closer than 1,500 feet. So we've got an idea on how to do it, that parcel will be 1,500 feet away from the lot line on the jail transfer station highway parcel, so that it will always be 1,500 feet away. And having the parking off that parcel makes it all that much easier.
Wasn't the county exec saying if for some reason we don't use these, though, he said we can always use them for veterans, veterans housing or whatever, so I know he's got this all.
Yeah, there's other options that we could do with. We're really doing this to be for the 980s.
Right, I agree.
But if by good chance, we have a period of time where there's no 980s that we have to house, we really don't want those things sitting empty. And one thing that came up during our meeting with the city is that over half of the sex offenders that are released that are not 980 come out and they're homeless. So they're released, they have a bracelet on, but you know, now they have no place to charge their bracelets. You know, they have no place to live. They're living underneath a bridge or someplace. You know, so the city has ideas too, but it's not something that we want to get locked into, something that when a 980 comes, we don't have a place for.
The sheriff also mentioned that he thought he had alternative uses too, I think.
Yeah.
He was at the meeting where he was there, we were approving.
But who's gonna pay for all these alternative uses?
Well, that's,
Not the state.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
It ain't gonna.
No.
That's why we're gonna do what we need to do for the 980 people that we are responsible for. We're not gonna overbuild just because we can't. But you know, if something happens down the road and all of a sudden we find out we have, you know, 25 people from Winnebago County in Sandridge that we may end up having to find a place for. All I can see is that the state is pushing more responsibilities for more programs onto the county, so that their budget looks better than our budget. And then we get blamed for being spendthrifts. But if something should happen, you know, the architect that we've got working also does a lot of work for the state. He's doing work at Sandridge that's remodeling some of the stuff because Mendota is running out of beds for people with psychiatric problems. So, you know, I can kind of see in the future that people who are sentenced to 980 are probably going to be processed through Sandridge, maybe a little faster than they have been in the past.
Are you working with Martin Riley on this?
No, this one is context.
Okay, because initially, your first set of drawings were from Martin and Riley, correct?
First set was from context.
Oh.
Second set was from Martin Riley.
Okay, and back to context, I guess. I just continue to pose this question when you're, you know, designing this. I would continue to ask them if the state legislature undoes that, you know,
What can we do with them?
what can we do with them? So, you never know what's going to happen in the next, you know, 10 years. So,
Yeah. Well, you know, context was one that came up and said, you know, they have smaller Connex boxes that they can turn into container homes. But the question is just going to be, what's the city going to allow us to do?
mhm.
You know, they really didn't want it to become a trailer park.
See anything
You
about
know,
Conex boxes?
they've got one
What do they
built,
look like?
well, there's one built about between 20th and 24th Street on, is it Main Street? In Oshkosh. And you really can't tell it's a Conex box. Actually, I think it's like 3 of them put together.
Yeah, yeah, they're getting pretty creative there. I think there's a company out of Madison.
There's a company in Appleton that does.
Okay, yeah.
Can't hurt to ask them, the
Yeah.
city, you know,
Yeah,
see what they say.
you know, and that way, you know, it's a container home. We make the connections, break the connections, and it gets picked up in the auto here. So, you know, that might not be a bad option for us.
Just the foundation would be there, right? Remain-
Foundation would be there even if we had a tiny
Yeah,
home.
right,
Um,
Yep. I don't understand.
So, you know, we could, you know, if it came down to a point where we're out of the business of it because they rescind the law or whatever, you know, we can sell the Conex homes and tear up the foundation, return it back to green space, take the utilities back to the city lines. Or in the case of a holding tank, just pull it out, sell it if we can, and just turn it back to the green space.
Another Huber situation. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, here, nothing, moving on to Mike, your report on operations and.
Some good news is we've had a couple interviews and we've made an offer to a maintenance worker type position. And I believe he is accepted. I haven't gotten confirmation on that. So hopefully we will be able to fill one of our 2 facility technicians positions. That still leaves 1 facility technician position open and then a physician, facility specialist in the maintenance area. We do have 5 of our custodial type positions are open, and one of our individuals is retiring in September. We do have an interview with 1 or 2 people on Friday. Hopefully, we'll be able to make an offer to them. But we're coming down to a point right now that I'm gonna have to talk to the county executive and just say, I'm probably gonna have to contract out snow removal because our custodial staff does snow removal and we're about 50% staffed right now. So I'm gonna be working them overtime to do cleaning, and now I'd be working them overtime to do snow removal. They're just gonna be burned out and they're gonna just retire at the first opportunity they've got or find another job doing similar type work that they don't have to worry about doing snow removal.
And there goes another mailbox.
Yeah,
Do your folks get paid to be on call?
yes. They get paid, I think, $15 a day that they're on call.
Highways do not. I don't know.
I don't know if they do or not,
Okay.
to be truthful. I do know other departments have on call, so their people are paid to be on call. But with the highways, you know, it's a double-edged sword. If we have different rules about if you're called in and it's unplanned,
Mhm.
you get a different pay rate. If you're on call, you get the on-call pay. Our people get paid half-hour travel at the beginning and the end. And then since they already work over 40 hours, everything that they've got is time and a half. I don't know exactly how highways works or, you know, really, we're the only other department that is like regularly on call for stuff.
And here again, we're getting off track, but I don't know how you guys get paid time and a half and I went to highway. That was a big thing that, when all this come up, getting money to the state to work on this, because they didn't want to worry about time and a half and all that, because it screws up their salaries and all this and that, so,
I don't know. I don't know, other than, I think what I understand with highways is they're looking at, rather than having them work from like 6 to 2 in the afternoon, they would adjust their schedule to start working at 4:30 to midnight.
Right.
In which case they wouldn't be working overtime because they haven't done their 40 hours yet. my people have already done their 40 hours. And then they would get the time and a half. So let's say for like my people, if it's Wednesday and it snows and they have to come in and do 3 hours, that kind of just goes into their 40 hours total. They wouldn't get the overtime until Thursday afternoon or Friday when they're doing their normal job that they go over the 40 hours. I think what they're looking at highways is trying to incentivize them doing the night work for the state. Because they don't want to close 41 or some of the other freeways during the day, because that's when the more traffic is.
So if you had to say how many people are you're gonna start working through your budget, or you already are for next year, well, how many people are you short?
Right now, I think 9.
9?
Wow.
Yeah, 9 or 10. I'm short 1 superintendent. Right now, I've got 2 openings for facilities technicians, facilities specialist, 5 custodians, and then in September, I lose 1 more custodial type person, so that'll be 10 people. 10 people out of 39.
So you're gonna be 10 people short, and now we're gonna have, you're gonna have additional more to take care of, that the sheriffs, we're gonna have these 4 or 6 new buildings, tiny houses to take care of.
Those we won't have, we haven't really had to do anything with the
Okay.
trailer.
All right.
So, I'll be cautiously optimistic and say they probably shouldn't be that big of a headache for us.
Okay.
But if you do, you can build a state for that, correct? Because then the state's supposed to
Yes.
take care of all that.
Okay.
As long as they're the 980s, yeah. So I get where you're going at. Do I need more people? Rather than adding a position right now that I won't be able to fill, I just want to get, if we can get back up to fully staffed, we'll see where we are. And what kind of workload we have. Because the morgue area, yeah, it's probably going to add some cleaning.
Mhm.
But I will say, the entire county has been very cooperative with us. And they've been asking how they can help ease our workload. Like, we'll dump our trash, you don't need to clean my office today,
Mhm.
those types of things. So, we're kind of slipping under the water, but not quite as fast as we would be if we weren't getting the cooperation.
Do you think this deferred maintenance and cleaning and, stuff that you're not doing because you don't have the people, do you think that's gonna end up costing the county in the long run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the long run, yeah, we're taking care of the important stuff. But it's the waxing and buffing of the floors that's getting delayed. We'll have to take a look at potentially contracting that out to try and keep the floors as long as we can. But the maintenance field is having, custodial fields having the same kind of problems that we are. And unfortunately, with the requirements that we have to protect the county with people having workman's comp and insurance levels and the background checks and everything, it kind of limits on who we can get in here to do work. So it's a tough market out there.
We're not gonna save any money, the taxpayers.
Oh, no, we're definitely not going to save any money. No.
So I'm gonna go back up to my old question. Are we further ahead paying the people more money and trying to get them in the door? Or could you, like, said, well, you don't know
Yeah.
what is the money, but now it's gonna cost us more. Are we further ahead giving that raise and getting people in the door?
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, I've talked to the county executive on the compensation study, personally, I don't think the county's gonna be able to afford what that compensation study is gonna say we should probably be paying our people. Because if I'm a private industry, I can all of a sudden start paying my barista $20 an hour and just raise the cost of my coffee. I don't go to Starbucks because I can't afford a $7 cup of coffee every day. When you look at what you pay for that, that's like astronomical. But they're still having people come in and do it so they can support those wages. We have to go back to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers are feeling the same crunch that we are. And it's very hard to tell somebody, oh, well, you know, your taxes are gonna go up, or we're gonna cut these services because we have to pay our people more, and they look at it and it's like, you know, I have to do without, you know, the employee should be able to do without.
But I'm not picking on you, Mike, because it
No.
seems like it's the whole county.
Oh, it,
But you talk about the taxpayers, they're still gonna have to pay for this extra service, so what makes
Oh,
the
yeah.
difference if they're got someone that they're paying the extra so
It's-
much to, or if you hire somebody to do the service that, you know, by rights, your staff was supposed to be doing.
because those people are people out in the public, they're the taxpayers. So they, I just get the feeling as a public employee, they look at us as being feeding at the trough of the taxpayers, that we aren't doing anything valuable for the public. But yet if we hire a contractor and pay them another half as much as what we would get paid, well, they're a small business, you're helping business and everything.
But it's
You know,
costing the taxpayers more at the end of the day, period.
correct.
Right.
You know, it's just like, you know, I tell people, you know, they talk about us as being government employees, and I say, well, you know, Oshkosh Truck is government employees.
That's
Pierce
what-
Manufacturing is government employees. They're owned by, they work for a private enterprise, but 90% of their product goes to the taxpayers. So, you know, it's, but they look at when Oshkosh Truck has a record profit year, they say, oh, that's great. But they don't realize that that's taxpayers' money going out
Right.
to Oshkosh Truck.
We're not gonna solve that. That's been a
So,
ongoing thing with people.
so yes, I think if we could raise wages, that would be a good thing. I think we could probably get some more people in here. It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a tough sell for the county to be able to afford it. And I don't know where that's gonna leave us. Because really, I think our employees do a better job for the taxpayers than hiring out to a small business.
You have skin in the game, period.
I was gonna say, our employees work for you guys, we have skin in the game. If we hire a contractor, their goal is profit. And it's not necessarily skin in the game. And it's real hard. When I first came here, we contracted out cleaning at Oshkosh and Neenah Human Services. And we were paying $20,000 to $30,000 a year to do that. The service was terrible. And as we wrote the specs tighter and tighter and tighter to improve the quality and everything, I think the last year that we contracted out was over $200,000 a year to clean the two buildings. And we brought that back in-house, and we provided a better service at less cost than what we were getting from the private sector. And to be honest, we've had 16 custodial staff in the county since I've come here. And we've picked up the jail, we picked up Oshkosh, we picked up Neenah Human Services. And until we started having the vacancies, I think our service to the employees was, and the public, was a lot better than what we're getting contracted out.
But didn't you at one time used to do the airport also?
Nope, we never did the airport. No,
Always had their own or whatever.
they've always had their own. They had a part-timer that retired when Peter Mall was still here. And that's when they started talking to us about taking it over. And it's like, I have to add people if I do it. And you know, when we built a new terminal, you know, Jim was asking, you know, can you do it? Can you do it? Right? It's like, Jim, I've got 5 vacancies. I can't do my own buildings. I can't tell you that I can do your building. So it's tough, but you know, we've, like I said, we've had 16 custodians. It's only been the last 2.5 years where we've not been able to get the people in to fill the vacancies. That it's being tough.
Do you think that it sounds like the different departments could be flexible with people working from home? Obviously, that could be something that reduces your workload. Like plans been discussed about, like human services, maybe?
I believe there's a number of human services employees that are working from home.
Mhm,
I don't know about all the other departments.
mhm.
Highways, they have to come into work. Parks has to come into work. Nursing, Parkview has to come into work. I don't know if like corporate counsel or the DA's office or some of these others can actually do the work from home.
I'm just thinking that in your budget for this year, like discussing that with the county executive, what is your plan moving forward? Now we, have, 1,100 only employees in the county, 1,100.
I think between 1,000 and 1,100, I think.
Now, we're gonna, 200 of the folks can work from home. Well, that's gonna affect, I don't have to be in your offices cleaning. That's, gonna help out your budget, I would think. I mean, have you had those discussions?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. I know I'm working on an RFP to do the building assessments. And that was, the plan was to use ARPA funds for that. So I've got a proposal, it's like $250,000. But I can't just go with the one, so I've got to do an RFP to get that out, to get more proposals.
Mhm.
But I would suggest that it probably won't be less expensive than that.
Committee just met for the first time last night.
Yeah. If I can just take 1 minute.
Brought up about people working from home and this and that. I think all of our employees should be back to work, but they're getting paid to do that.
Mhm.
Sitting at home, I've talked to different ones, and not just our employees, but other ones.
Mhm.
Here they're going ahead and they're throwing in loads of wash, or they're taking care of their kids or whatever. So are we getting their full undivided attention? I know some, yes, some you are, but
Yeah, I guess, we're just talking opinions, right?
right, that's all we're
Yep.
doing.
And,
I don't know how much she's rating, but that's what I'm doing.
yeah, that, I think that the people that you have in an office setting or wherever, Tom, he's a go-getter. Well, this Tom, not so
I
much.
wouldn't say that about me. right?
And so I think you have the people that are gonna work and the people that aren't, whether that's in an office setting or at home. I think it depends. Obviously, if you're interacting with the public, obviously you have to be, at your desk at that position. But I think that also that there's, say a recent study has shown that people have been more productive, being able to work from home, and the flexibility part. I know I just talked to a nurse, a friend of mine from working at Fond du Lac County. She's a public nurse. I don't know how she can do some of her work from home or paperwork, but her boss lets her do that. And so she's able to take, her kids are old enough where she can be home and do her work. But so I don't know. I've heard more positives than negatives. So on it.
But who's checking on them?
How
If I want to come and talk to you and say something to you, or go talk to you, how can I do that if you're not in your office at times?
pick up the phone and say, hey, what are you doing? Or you're on a camera, on a Zoom call. So depending on the work you get done, if you're not getting the work done, you're not getting the work
We
done.
had some that used to be, I'm gonna say used to be, they're not anymore, that used to be in office here. All of their people had to come into the office, but she didn't have to.
With GPS bracelets on them, Tom.
Well, no, I'm just saying, that's what was
No,
happening.
keystrokes too.
That's
They got
what-
keystrokes on the computer. If they're giving you a computer, they can tell you how many
Yeah.
keystrokes from what time to what time and when there was a gap in there.
So was that fair where all of her people had to come into work, but she didn't have to?
Well, it was a whole staff that was working from home. And
It's,
some of the other, you had the other Toms and the Toms.
I just know with young people with, like myself, with families, and like the childcare thing wasn't an issue when you guys, as much of an issue, and like providing that flexibility, because private companies are providing that flexibility. We're already having trouble getting people, losing them to the private sector. With this newer generation, you have to be flexible in certain circumstances to retain people if you can. So that's just what I've seen in my circle of folks around my age. So
I got a daughter-in-law, same way, her office is in Milwaukee, I don't know if she ever goes there.
sure. just different, yeah.
It's, you know, and once we find out what the status is of the buildings, then we can find out which of our buildings are the best. And then we need to really have a discussion on, you know, if Human Services has 30% of their people working from home, you know, that's 30% of the building now that I'm maintaining.
Right.
That, you know, what does the future of our facilities look like for the county, based on what kind of workload and employment options we have for the people?
Mhm.
It's good hunt.
Say you consolidate and dispose of facilities, is that what you're saying?
Potentially,
Yeah.
potentially.
I'd like to do.
You know, back before we bought the Otter Street building, I know I talked to Mark Harris. I used to live in Virginia Beach. They used to have a municipal center that was like located in Eureka in Winnebago County. But as as Virginia Beach developed as a county, that's like the center of the county now. And they have multiple buildings. I think they have like 20 or 30 buildings down there. But that's where all of the municipal, Virginia Beach is actually it's a city that took over the county. It's not really a county. But it's one place. If you want to go pay your taxes, you go down to the municipal center. If you want the DA's office, you want the courts, you want, you know, the police department and everything, it's all down there. The police department does have a couple remote districts, but everybody else is in one location. And that's what I had proposed with the vacant Parkview buildings that we had here. I think, no, Bernie was on the committee at that time. But it was, you know, let's locate them out here. And it's really kind of a good place out here because we've got Highway 10 not too far away, 41. You know, it's kind of equidistant between the north and south.
Just good access.
It's good access. You know, if you got to go talk to the treasurer's office, it's a maze of streets that you got to get to if you're coming down 41.
Wasn't there a study done on that already?
Kind of. And
I look back, there's a copy of it.
yeah, so, you know, that's kind of where we're kind of looking at is what kind of staffing does the county have? What kind of buildings do we need? You know, how much of it's going to be remote? You know, even with the courts during the pandemic, they still had court cases going on, but it was all remote.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we don't need to have such large courtrooms. You know, it's the world of the way we're doing business is kind of changing, and so we've got to take a look at that. So, you know, the rest of the projects, I gave you the project list. The courthouse, masonry repairs is pretty much all done. We have one piece of stone that needs to be replaced, that when it came from the supplier, it was cut wrong. So they had to get it recut, and we still have not gotten that back from the supplier. The airport tower windows, that's been awarded. We're just waiting on Omni to get the glass to get it in here. We've pretty much gotten the CBRF HVAC stuff taken care of. So that one will probably go away next month. The historical marker 360 or image 360 is still working on the display. We gave them the legs and everything. So that's probably going to be another 2 or 3 weeks to get done. We're still exploring options on the fall protection. We've got the branch 5. We were supposed, originally Judge Jorgensen, you know, wanted stuff cleaned up and everything. And when we told him that the refinishing all the woodwork in the courtroom was going to be like over $125,000. It's gotten scaled back. We're just going to fix his bench out for work, out for bid right now. We're still working with the clerk of courts to develop some office space in the basement of the courthouse. They're kind of cramped up in their areas, so Tara's looking at trying to relocate 3 or 4 people in the basement that don't have public interaction. The big ones I'm trying to just get. USDA lease proposal. I've got Mark Riley's working on that to come up with a bid package for us. USDA is really chomping at the bit to get my bid numbers, but if I gave her numbers based on the arc. Based on the architect's estimate, that wasn't good enough. So now if she wants tighter numbers that she's gonna hold us to, I've got to go out for the bid to get a contractor to give me a price. We still don't know. What's that?
Will they pay for that then?
Ultimately, yes. If they decide that it's still too pricey and they want to go someplace else, then I probably won't be able to get reimbursed for it. We're going to be replacing the carpeting in the big meeting rooms out here as part of our carpet replacement project. Fairview roof, the Fairview Tower roof should be getting replaced. They should start in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Would you end up getting to do that?
Schulze Exteriors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had gone out for bid 2 or 3 times on that, and Schulze had given us one price, and they're pretty busy, and I think we fell through the cracks, and we went back and we're going to honor their bid price, and they've given us a contract for it. The evidence garage, I've got to get the purchase order and contract amended with context to include the morgue now. I did check with purchasing. We can expand the scope of their work to include that additional work without having to go out for another RFP. So that should go pretty good. The jail cell modifications to get rid of the mesh and put in the plexiglass, they should be getting the material in here, I think in August. So that'll be going forward with that. We've got a project to clean up the open pods, DS1 and DS2, clean up the paint and the flooring. So that's going. I'm just trying to get all the big ones. We've got some offices that Nina Human Services needs built, split up some bigger rooms into smaller ones. So we've got that scheduled for fall when we can do inside work, and then we're not trying to compete with our outside work. We have had a problem now with the air conditioning up at Nina Human Services. We were trying to do a planned replacement on that, but we've now developed a leak that's in an inaccessible area. So we're trying to limp it along to fall so that I can get this incorporated into a capital project and come before the county board to get it replaced over the winter. But that's something. It's a R22 system, so we really can't. They've stopped making R22 about 5 to 10 years ago, and so the only stuff that's available right now is what's been manufactured and reclaimed. So the price is going up astronomically fast. So we will end up having to replace the chiller units up there to using a different refrigerant like R134 or 410. I think it's probably going to be 410. So that will be between $150,000 and $200,000 to fix that.
134 is a vehicle, isn't it?
Sometimes, yeah. We've got 134 in the jail. I think it's 134. But they're trying to do a whole lot of different things. And actually right now, I read an article in one of my trade magazines that they're looking at using carbon dioxide as a refrigerant. So I don't know how that's gonna work, but
Good for global warming, right?
yeah, you suck the carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere.
I'll be happy.
Yeah. We are still waiting on the material to do the DA's remodeling. They're looking at trying to get that started end of July, August. So we've got, we're getting ready to go on the King's Mother Room. The storage facility, I think, you know, I know Tom saw it. But that's going up. I think we've got just about all of the exterior walls up and completed. And they'll start trying to get the roof trusses on and start putting the roof on here in the near future. The boathouse is going to be the death of me.
Oh, no.
We're trying to get a pre-construction meeting scheduled with Rackies. They are just dragging their feet. The city had asked us to incorporate some stormwater work for them because that would be the best time to do it. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that. I came before you guys for the budget for the boathouse with the idea, and the stormwater wasn't part of the budget or the plan at the beginning when we came to you all for approval. During the design review process, the city woke up and said, oh, we've got a stormwater discharge that we need to do. And we need to do it at the same time as you do your boathouse, because if we do it afterwards, there's a big possibility that we're going to damage the boathouse pilings and things like that. So they said they would pay for it all, but apparently I didn't do the funding statement correctly. So I don't know how that's going to work out. That I should have shown the money from the city as being a revenue on the budget transfer, but the budget transfer was done before we even knew that the city wanted to do this work. So I don't know how we're going to do it. We're not going to pay for the stormwater. The city's going to pay for it all. But it's an issue with our finance department on trying to get it all paperwork right. So that might be slowing down Radke's a little bit too, before they get all the confirmation on that.
We don't have a signed contract, is what you're saying.
Oh, we have a signed contract with Radke's for the entire amount, including what the city said they would pay for. But the purchase order that the county cut for them is only for our work. And now we're having to work through getting the city on board to committing to paying for their part.
Mhm.
So
Does a city own property there? The street, right? But the street
It is-
comes in. The railroad.
this
owns
is
that, don't they?
really,
On the plat map, it shows a railroad on that plan. Or,
there is a railroad easement that the boathouse is in.
yeah,
The property is actually owned by an old painting company, from what I've understood.
oh,
The city has an easement for the road there and the stormwater. It is, I can't explain it all.
the painting company is to the east, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think they own the whole parcel.
Oh, they do?
It's very convoluted.
Yeah.
So the city had an easement for the boathouse way back in the mid 1900s. In 1980, I believe they turned over the boathouse to the county. So the location of it in the easement is still an authorized use, if you want to call it that. But I guess we own the boathouse. It's in a railroad easement. It's in an easement that the city has. It's been there probably going on close to 100 years now.
But the underlying land's owned by the painting company?
I believe so. I wasn't all involved in that.
They can't come back and say, we want a ground lease payment for that
No, because the city's already taken care of that. So it's, everything is fine with it. Except trying to get the place rebuilt now. So we'd have been done by now if we didn't have the city's stormwater project interfering with it. So that is my headache every day.
Sounds like
The childcare center up at UW Fox Cities is moving right along. They've got the foundations in. They're starting to put up the exterior walls. We talked about the Student Development Center. They're gonna probably talk to you about that next week, Tuesday. They're still, I don't know what their plans are with the science wing windows, but they hired Context to take a look at the windows, and the windows were installed incorrectly, and they've got, it's not just one or two windows, it's a whole lot of windows that they need to do something with. And then the fume hoods, we're trying to work through with them, trying to get the project moving. They had hired somebody to write up a set of specs as a design build type situation. We had to explain to them that we are not the state. We can't really do design build. We can do design build. I don't want to mislead you on that. But in order for us to do design build, we have to have the scope of the work so spelled out that everybody can give us a price on the same thing. So it's like if we want Kohler toilets, Russwin door locks, these types of doors, these types of windows, all this, they've all got to be spelled out for them to design, to the point where we've pretty much already done the design. All they've got to do is just do a drawing. So they had written it up as, well, we just have this, we want you to come in and design a new ventilation system in both Allegheny County, and we told them, you can't do that. It has to be more definitive than what you've got. So we're trying to work with them to get the RFP written so that they can get it designed and then out for bid. And that's the projects in a nutshell.
What's gonna happen when we got a supervisor or some supervisors that come and say that we cannot take a bid unless it's more than one bid? Just so you're prepared.
I'm gonna say the state law says you have to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. It doesn't say that you have to have more than one. And if you want more than one, I don't know how we're going to be able to deny the bid of the one person that bid. That would be a legal issue that Mary Ann would have to make a ruling on, but I'm
I think that
thinking,
is state law.
yeah, state law says we have to take.
I'm pretty sure
We got
that,
one that's might
Have to be
become
tied on that.
that I don't even know if I'll bring it to the board, but
But yeah, you advertise it for bid,
Yeah,
and then what are you gonna do? Take that person's bid, and now everybody knows what that bid is, and say your project out here, okay, we're gonna go rebid that. Okay, well, we know that Tom's Roofing came in at this price, well, we'll just go.
we'll go $5
Yeah.
less.
Yeah,
The roof didn't change, the scope of the work didn't
Yeah.
change.
not real fair to the person that actually took the time. to
And-
look at
and-
the
and-
video.
And I think, the state law basically says we have to go out for public works projects over like $25,000. We have to go out for a bid. We put it out on Demand Star, and I can show how many people pull out the bid package, and if only one person submits a bid, then, I think the state law pretty much ties my hands that they are considered, they would be able to sue us and say, we were the lowest responsible bidder, and you didn't award it to us.
The problem is, or probably what happens in certain industries is that, and it happens, still happens, and will continue to happen, these companies will get together and then they'll fix the bids and they'll say, hey, I'm busy this year. You do this bid, you do this job over here. I'd like to get this job, blah, blah, blah. And they'll, you see it in water tower painting where you have the same contractors and all of a sudden one throws a bid that's $800,000 higher. Like, how can it be that? And so that does happen in that arena. And at the end of the day, these people aren't telling on themselves.
Call that bid rigging.
Bid rigging. Yeah.
Laws against.
Well, what happens in the circumstances where you only get one bid?
I think the state law says I have to award, if I put out a public works bid, I'm required to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. And if we don't award it, in order for me to go out for rebid, I have to change the scope of work somehow.
So that's how the boathouse thing got screwed up, because we only got the one bid on that.
Yeah, and he was the lowest responsible bidder. And I believe we would, if we had denied him, they can come back and sue. And we did have a problem early in my career here where we were doing the roof for the pavilion at Parkview. And we had specific requirements in the bid. E.D. Chase bid it, and a company out of Milwaukee, FJA Christensen, bid the job. FJA Christensen provided all the documentation we wanted at the bid opening. E.D. Chase did not. E.D. Chase was the low bidder. FJA Christensen threw a flag and said, we're protesting that you want to award it to E.D. Chase because they didn't provide all the information at the bid. But we did. So then it's like, okay, we have a problem. We're gonna have to disqualify E.D. Chase because they didn't provide all the specifics that we wanted at the bid. We're gonna award it to FJA Christensen. E.D. Chase then filed an appeal with the county board to overturn our decision to do it with FJA Christensen. So basically what we ended up having to do in that process was we had to cancel the bids, make a change of scope in the contract, in the bid specs, significant enough that it wasn't just a cosmetic change, and then put it out for bid again. FJA Christensen bid it, and they bid it at pretty much the same price that they gave us the first time. E.D. Chase came back and bid 3 times what they bid the first time.
3 times?
Yeah,
Wow.
it went from like $300,000 to $800,000 for the roof. And, and so then we still awarded it to FJA Christensen, and E.D. Chase said, we'll never do a roof for you again. And it's like, okay, I guess,
Okay, I mean,
you
3
didn't,
times the cost.
you didn't comply with the bid specs the first time. So that's kind of what will happen if we go out for a bid, we get one bidder,
Yeah.
and we all have a requirement. Well, no, you have to have at least 3 bids.
Yeah.
So now we're going to cancel it. The person that did their time and due diligence to submit a bid is going to get upset with the county. We'll probably go out for bid again. What happens if it comes back to that one person and he decides, you screwed me the first time, I'm going to double my price.
Yeah.
And he's still the only one.
Exactly.
Now we've gone and just really shot ourselves in the foot because we can't go back to his first bid and say, well,
Yep, that's a double the price.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've told the county board a couple times in my history here. I worked at a shipyard before I went to work for the city of Milwaukee. And you only have so many piers at the shipyard. But if you didn't bid on contracts, then the Navy would take it as an indication you're not interested in the work. So there's a job that came up. We were full,
Yeah.
but we felt we had to do the bid. And we came up with our bid and we said, okay, we don't want this job, we're gonna double our price. And we came in as the low bidder. And then we were left scrambling with where are we gonna put this ship? Because we had no pier space. But, you know, that's similar to what you're gonna have here is, you know, contractors are gonna give you your best effort if they can to come up with an estimate. And if you mess with them too much, they're either going to not submit bids, which then puts us in a harder place because we won't be able to get the 3 bids, or they're going to just raise their price to compensate them for all the times that they had to do all this stuff and they didn't get the work. With glass, how many glass companies have we got in town? We've got Omni, we've got Tri-City, we've got
We've got 3,
3 of them,
Oshkosh Glass, Omni Glass, and.
Jackson Glass.
No, they're out of business, and Grabner Glass.
Tri-City.
No, they're in Appleton.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I know when we had Jackson Glass here, they always came in high bid. But we always got like Tri-City, Omni, and Jackson Glass for our 3 quotes. And finally just said, we're not gonna give you a quote anymore because we know we're not gonna come in low and we're not gonna waste our time giving you a quote.
That's what happens with contractors that do certain work, or they used to do work and they say, well, every time I see a Winnebago County job or whatever contractor on, I don't get the work, so I'm not even gonna waste my time bidding on it because they use these low road scumball contractors, which I can't compete with because I pay health insurance and retirement and
Yeah.
pay a living wage, so then they put them in they don't touch a certain amount of work. But with the county, it's different because at least they, you know, it's an open bidding process. There is some monkey or funny business that could happen between the contractors, but they, you know, at least know it's gonna be a fair bid opening.
What is interesting there though, like say, if you go ahead and say who was awarded that bid, you can at least tell at that time, say, we had so many people that, you know, looked at it or showed interest in that. That
Yeah.
could settle some of the questions down.
We could do it, because like for the boathouse, we had 2 people actually take out the bid package. And the second person couldn't get his bid in on time, so he didn't submit anything. We've had some contractors who couldn't get a number from their subcontractors, like the electricians or something. And I've had them come in at like 5 minutes before the bid time saying, here's our bid, but you know, we couldn't get a price for the electrician, so we took a swag at it. And you know, and then they might get the job and then they have to live with that price. So there's a lot of contractors, I think, well, maybe not a lot, but there are some contractors out there that have not been able to get prices from all their subs in a timely manner to be able to get a price into us. And then they just, like with the boathouse, he just said, well, you know, I'm not going to take a chance and I'm not going to put in a number that I'm not comfortable with. So, you know, I'll pass. And then, you know, we end up with 1 bidder.
And specialty work, just
Yeah.
different than that. Airport windows, you know, it's specialty work. You don't have a bunch of contractors that can have the barge to go out there and fall protection that they're gonna have to
Yeah.
have, so.
So, you know, I'll answer, you know, if that comes before the county board, you know, I can answer it the best I can. You know, it's, you know,
They said it might not even go on the agenda.
yeah, but that's the issues that we've
Yeah,
gone
I hope
into.
not, not the balls anyway. We've long overdone that one.
I think it's important to have.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely important. That's the biggest thing ever. We got
Huge
state of
lawsuit if
our,
you don't have your boat ready to go for.
state of the art boat and it's sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
But
So it's,
You will receive.
it's a challenge to get bids. And then, you know, our budget, we're looking pretty good overall. I am working on the 2023 budget. And, you know, we'll see, you know, if you look at our major budget, which is our, you know, it's our 1025 is what they call it. We're sitting at roughly 45% of our budget spent as of July. We should probably be at about, 60%. But a lot of that is because I have these vacancies and I'm not spending money on salaries. So, that's, if you take a look at, wages, we're at 43%. So, hopefully that will go down and, I'll be able to have people here, but it's been a real challenge getting people in for interviews. We have, going back to that topic, we have set up interviews and have names on the schedule. And when 9 o'clock rolls around and they're supposed to be here, they aren't here. And, I don't know if HR follows up on why they didn't show up or not. But I do know we've had some people that haven't shown up and we've tried getting in touch with them and they just don't answer our calls. So, I don't know, it's a applicant's job market out there. You can go just about anywhere and get a job, it seems like. The county exec is trying to make it faster for us to get people in the door. He's working on, rather than having us have HR present at all of our interviews, there's people like me, Bill Topol, some of the older department heads. We've done enough interviews. We know what questions to ask that, we're not going to get in trouble with asking the improper questions. We'll get them in faster and maybe, when it comes time for the hire, they can talk to HR for benefits and things like that. Any other questions?
Hearing none, we'll move on to suggestions for items for the next meeting agenda. What do you have?
980.
Is UW Fox Cities, you said, they're gonna do a presentation,
Next Tuesday.
so would all our questions be answered by then for that?
Or it may generate more questions.
Yeah.
If you guys have more questions, you can forward them to me and I'll forward them off to Martin Rudd. And Joanne Wright.
Yeah, I guess being new and stepping into that, a little bit on the backside, we obviously voted for the engineering study. I didn't have the feasibility study at that point, so I hadn't looked at it at all. And just, I guess my only issue is, it would have been nice to have costs assigned to each option rather than just, a high option. So that we could compare and contrast and say, oh, here's what this is gonna cost, here's what the addition is gonna add, here's what the mezzanine is gonna add. I don't know, just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
Did you have some, did you?
I guess
They've been in here. Were they in there the first meeting? No.
They were in here the last one and one before there and talked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess I should have got myself up to speed at that point. So
I don't know, I mean, that you want them to come in and,
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying.
I guess the question would be is, I forwarded on Allegheny County questions to the county executive. I don't know if you want me to forward on their questions to you guys or not.
I think it's more of you getting the answers more than the questions. Like if he's got a question, he can get them to you and then maybe you can get the answers.
Who did the opinion of probable cost and feasibility study? Is that some other
Somerville,
firm that
I believe.
That's a lot of work to put that stuff together. I
Yeah.
know that, so.
how about maybe for next month, the update on your the building study, what are you calling it?
The building assessment.
Building assessment, where that's at and are you gonna have it, ARPA funds paying for it, or? I
I
guess-
tell you right now, you will not know if the ARPA funds are gonna pay for it by next month.
Okay,
I'm hoping that I'm gonna put out the RFP and I'm gonna put a statement in there. Give me your price based on, I don't know exactly when we're gonna have funding for this,
mhm.
but hopefully it would be done late 2022, 2023 timeframe.
Building assessment.
Yeah, I've talked to the county executive. What we'd like to do is take a look at all of our buildings
Yeah.
and come up with a list of deferred maintenance
Oh,
and an opinion of the lifespan left in the building and what kind of major repairs we've got coming up. So that you all and he can kind of take a look at what facilities we have. Let's just say, for example, and this is just not real. Oshkosh Human Services requires $25 million worth of upgrades and stuff. The county executive and you all need to know that there's $25 million. If we're going to have 30% of the staff working from home and 30% of the building empty, does it really make sense to put $25 million into that building? Or does it make sense to maybe start the county campus someplace and say, this is a better place for a newer, smaller human services building? Then we sell Oshkosh Human Services and maybe they turn it into apartments.
do you hire somebody to do that? Or?
We would sell the building.
No, I mean, the assessments.
That's what we're looking at doing with this building assessment.
A third party where it's not like this department is going, hey, I need new windows in here. Well, the third party is going to come in and say, okay, the windows are 25 years old, they're leaking this amount, that's costing the taxpayers this amount of money. The roof on this building is 25 years old, and so it's a professional opinion that, okay, you're not gonna argue with, okay, this roof is leaking, it's 10 years past life expectancy. It's not Mike saying, yeah, I believe that,
Right.
that the roof needs to be done.
Okay, do you know who, do you have a list of firms that? you would
We've
use
got
for
one
that?
firm, it's McKinney, is out of, I think, out of Milwaukee. They provided us a proposal for it, and that was about 200,000, I think, $225,000 to do it. I gave them a list of all of our buildings, so they know the age of the buildings, the size of the buildings, and the names of the buildings.
Mhm.
And they took a look at it and said, yeah, we think we can do this for like $225,000. But because it's that big of a price, the county has a policy that any kind of professional services over $25,000 has to go out for RFP. So we'll have to do an RFP, and when we do the RFP, McKinney can always come back and say, well, our price has gone up to $250.
Yeah.
But
Others involved.
Johnson Controls has a division, it's called Johnson Worldwide Services, that kind of does the same thing. McKinney does it. There's other companies that can do it.
Sure.
There are probably some architectural firms that would probably do it. I don't know if Bolt would get involved in this. They've got different divisions that they may or may not do it. But the thing is, put out the RFP on what we're expecting and how fast we want it back, and it will kind of shake out who can do the work for us.
Yep.
There may be people outside the state that wants to get involved in it.
It's just a big undertaking because, you're gonna have to have documents from the county to say, okay, the courthouse roof, they can't go up there and there's not a stamp that says it was done in 96. They're gonna have to get the documentation from the county to say, okay, this is when, XYZ was done.
A lot of research.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could do it in-house, but pretty much it would be myself and my staff would have nothing else that we could work on for like the next 6 months or a year.
I'd say, but
Um, So, it's still gonna be pretty intensive with us trying to get all the background information for them. But, we'll go and see what we can find. The other thing that's coming up is, according to
Then I can't
the
work for the county.
National Electrical Code, we did an arc flash study of our buildings, more than 5 years ago. But under the National Electrical Code, you're supposed to revisit your study every 5 years. So, that one was $125,000 when we did it. So I don't know what that's going to entail when we go forward.
Yeah.
But we've been keeping up our documentation pretty well. So I'm not so concerned about that, because I think they do that because not everybody keeps up what they're doing with their electrical system like we do.
Yeah.
Somebody does it 5 years ago, then they forget about it and they make all these changes to the electrical system, and it's altered what the arc flash potential is for the panels. But we're pretty good with that.
All right, any other items for the next meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I was just kind of 7 and 8. I just kind of think it'd be nice if we just met back out here again and Mike showed us all the work that has to be done in the USDA office. We get that. We're having new carpet out here. We could also show, especially the ones that were just elected, and kind of where that marker is supposed to go.
Sure.
It can all be done right out here, because it's all right within this area.
Any
It sounds like a
objections to that?
good plan to me. I would,
No,
Well,
it's
you know,
closer for me to come here.
but it doesn't matter to me.
the ancillary building will be further along. We'll probably have a roof on it.
Okay.
Maybe we can get you guys in there and take a look at it.
Yeah, I guess as far as, as far as the UW Fox Cities, before I ask for anything, I'd like to see their presentation.
Yeah.
Well, they'll have that next Tuesday, right? They're gonna do that?
Yes, it's supposed to. Yeah.
See what happens there.
And-
Oh, I'm sure they'll be there.
And you
They're
can,
not coming, all of them.
you can always, call the vice chancellor and take a tour of the facility. I mean, it's
I've
all-
been up there already twice.
Okay.
to do that, so.
Or just go there. It's
We've had a
public
meeting.
building.
We've had one meeting too.
Yeah.
Already.
But it's a good facility. I think it's a needed facility. It's just, how's this partnership been changed? I know Allegheny County's got some questions.
That's unusual for them too.
Yes,
Normally it was presented and next month it was approved.
All right.
You don't think those costs are already there and they just didn't present them in the study? Do you? They're not out there.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Probably not,
Probably.
because I think, realistically, that would probably have maybe doubled the work for the architect
Yeah.
to do it. So you want to run a balance between how much it's all going to cost to come up with. And realistically, they did the feasibility study that identified this one type of project that they wanted to go forward with.
Yeah.
And that's what the design was focused towards.
What do you think, can I speak out loud on, what do you think Allegheny County's objective is by asking the questions? Do you think that,
They want to know how viable that facility is going to be, and they want to know what the university system is planning on doing.
what do you think their answers will be that they'll get?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's.
I think UWO taking over kind of put
A different twist on the whole thing.
yes, absolutely. So, I mean, did you have any questions with that too, with what UWO is gonna do?
Yeah, it's, yeah. UWO's got 2 campuses now in Fond du Lac and in Menasha. How viable is it? Like I said, when I first started here, I think enrollment was 5,000 to 7,000 students at UW Fox Cities, and now it's down to about 1,200. or less. And talking to some of the parties, the university system's more worried about, I think, is it somewhere around UW River Falls or whatever, their 2-year campus has like 75 students. So, the counties are looking at like, we're spending all of this money for 75 students, can we keep this campus open? And is the university system going to keep providing it? Now, we've got a lot of population between Green Bay and Fond du Lac that can go to UW Fox Cities. So I think that's going to be a viable need, but I don't know, I'm looking at, I'm reading, I'm coming at this from an employer trying to find people to fill vacancies. And, those of us that are baby boomers have really put the hit on the job market. And, there wasn't a big baby boom after like the Vietnam War, where, those people are really getting into the workforce. And, I'm looking at my grandson, it's going to be 18 years before he's ready to go to college or go in the workforce. So what are we going to do between now and 18 years from now with being able to fill vacancies if we literally just don't even have the people to fill all the vacancies that we've got? And I don't have those answers. I don't know what the population trends are going to do, but what I'm reading in my magazines is that this is going to be an issue for a long time, trying to find people to fill vacancies in business, or going to colleges or things like, going back to when I lived in Virginia Beach, the Navy was at 600 ships. Norfolk and Virginia Beach were just booming. They were building schools left and right. The Navy's down to under 300 ships right now, and they're closing schools in Virginia Beach because the military's not there to fill them. So I'm not a statistician to be able to say where are we going with the population and everything like that, but that's something, I think we as a society need to take a look at, with how are we going to sustain our operations if we don't have the people to fill the holes that the baby boomers are leaving. I think we're in for probably 20 years of some hard times with labor, just because, I'm at the tail end of the baby boom, so,
Me too.
we're looking at retiring, and who's going to be filling my spot? It's like, I feel bad for the county exec when I retire, who's he going to get to take my place? There's, I've been looking for engineering jobs for my daughter, and there's this one place down in Beloit that I think would be a great place for her to work, and the position's been open for 9 months. So, and I think she'd be great for it, but she doesn't want to leave the place she's working. So I think we're in for some tough times, and as being an older person, eventually I'll probably need a nursing home. And what are we going to do with all the baby boomers that have to go to the nursing homes if we can't get CNAs right now to take care of what we've got at Parkview? It's tough. So to answer your question, I hope that we can keep UW Fox Cities going, but I don't know what we can do with enrollment and population needs.
Well, they say that they have people taking classes from outside of the general area, that they're moving between institutions to take different courses, and then they're actually creating more offerings because they're not just, distributing their offerings, they're increasing their offerings because they have demand from, one student may want to take a class here and then take one at Fox Cities and take one at the other campus. And then they said that I lost my train of thought. There's one other issue that was important there, but didn't seem to think of it offhand. Yeah, I'll just have to pass on that, I guess.
All right. Next meeting.
I got a question on that too.
uh,
And I really like this data, I really do. But like if Mike or any of this committee has to get anything in to be presented at the county board, it has to be in by like Monday at noon, it would have had to be in. So if you want anything to go in, like say, for coming up, like this thing now with this, that we just approved for the easement and that can't go in until next month. Where by rights, you know, if we would have had it like a week sooner or whatever, we could have had this on this month's agenda and that. So you're gonna be almost a month behind on some of the things that you're gonna be wanting to present. That's the only thing I'm gonna say, because I like this date. It's been like this date forever, but just so you know that Mike can go ahead and tell you probably more about it. But
Yeah, we've had a discussion with trying to get everything timed out, and basically what it comes down to is having the committee meetings either the fourth week of the month or the first week of the month, times out so that we can get it through the committees, through PNF if it has to go to, and then to the county board by the third week of the month.
That's a good idea.
But that's,
What about the time of the day? Same as all.
you can do whatever you want there. Just Mary Ann's got to have them like on Monday. She had to have everything in by Monday at noon in order to go through. And I don't blame her a bit, because I was in a meeting with her at 11 that morning, and she worked straight through to get everything done, which we don't have a lot on this month, but to make sure that she had gotten everything on what had to go onto the agenda. And she had 24 emails she had to look at before she could.
Yeah, they're real
So,
busy. We gotta accommodate them.
and I'd gotten this easement to her last week.
Right.
But what ends up happening is there is a concern that things get put on like the county board agenda before it goes before this committee. And this committee could take action that would preclude it going to the county board. So, you know, it's the timing that's.
So
They're
what do
trying
you
to work
suggest to have the meeting?
Well, it's like Mike said, you have the first and the fourth or whatever to
Yeah.
get it through in there, but this is entirely up to you guys. I'm not saying we should change or whatever, but if you want things on county board to go right along, that's what it has to be. She has to get them to me and everything, so I can approve the agenda before it gets done. And like Mike did have the stuff there, but it wasn't approved by this committee, and I said, well, if he's got it to you, then they can just pull it if it don't go through the committee. If the committee would have voted no or whatever. But if she would have allowed this committee, then the next committee would have wanted it, and this one would want it, and this and that. So the committees are just going to have to start working if they want something to come up. See, it all comes through me before it goes to the final agenda anyways.
Well, I guess I would just say that I get that point, I guess, from, has this been a big problem that, so we just approved this easement, yep, it won't go on till, we won't see it till the August agenda. I mean, has this presented big problems for the facilities department and moving, you know, things forward? I guess has it been, I mean, this is the first time.
Sometimes it does,
Yeah.
because the way it falls now is PNF on tomorrow, isn't it?
You know,
So it's kind of like, if I need something to go through this committee and then PNF, there's some reluctance to put it on the PNF committee because it hasn't come through this committee. So sometimes it could extend our timeline 6 to 8 weeks
Mhm.
if I needed funding or
Yeah,
something like that.
that's not, I mean, not good. I mean, I think that, you know, the statement of, well, we've always had the meeting then, or we've always done it this way. I think that's oftentimes detrimental, and I think, you know, we should be looking at it the best way possible, the easiest, and it flows the best. And if that's the way that we have to move our meetings to, you know, 1 week, whatever.
that was just one little thing, this thing here, but say if you had something come up on the 980 or some roof had to be fixed or whatever, it all has to come through here first. So I just thought I'd bring it up.
Could I ask, when does P and F meet?
They meet the second
Look on that.
Thursday.
Look on your computer. so you can see it.
I don't have it. I didn't have mine with me.
It's either the first or second Thursday of the month.
So, but if we approve and then P and F hasn't approved, then it's still gonna wait, right?
Yeah.
Right,
For another month?
right, but it's some of the, anything that pertains to money, it has to go through their committee.
So it's
anyways.
like, I think what it would be is if we had a committee meeting on the first, in the first week of the month, but that kind of screws things up, because like if the first of the month is on a Wednesday,
First Thursday, first Thursday,
First Thursday.
first Thursday of the month. So then they passed something they needed to get it on the agenda by Monday.
So if we met before that, it could be either the
So it
fourth
would be
week or the
like,
first week before.
we
they-
would have to move you guys to like the fourth week of the month.
Yeah.
In order to follow the timeline in the most
That would make
expeditious
sense,
manner.
yeah.
I got a Monday at 1 on the fourth week with Fox Cities. That's, that's the only conflict I would have.
I'm good on the fourth week.
I'm good on the fourth.
I'm good on
I
the
think
fourth
there's
week.
anything on the fourth, Fridays, I know I go, but other than that,
I know.
Fourth
I-
Wednesday is, there's nothing on the agenda.
Last week on Wednesday.
Well,
I'm
actually,
fine.
that would be on the 24th,
It would be,
or no, the last one would be the 31st, actually, but. Or you're talking.
well, the fourth Wednesday, there's 5 Wednesdays in
Yeah, so
August,
it's
so
fourth,
the
24th.
fourth would be the 24th of August. It's up to you guys. I don't have a
I
problem.
don't have a problem with it. If you want to do that, it speeds stuff up, gets on agenda faster, it's fine with me.
No, I think we're, because that'd be in 2 weeks, so.
Then I get all my
Hey,
committee meetings
it
done in
kinda-
1 week too, so. that'd be good.
It kind of frees up the two weeks in August for me. I could go to Bahamas or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Your light's gone.
Don't put that in it.
That's good. I wish I could go to Bahamas.
just something I try to bring up, so
I didn't know if this is. I mean, if you
I'm
wanna
game.
take
Is
a-
everybody else game? We'll call it the 24th at 9 AM right here.
Well, do we have to vote? We should probably vote.
Oh, yeah,
on
we
that.
should vote.
Well, is there a motion on the floor to
I'll
move
make
that?
a motion that we change it to the 24th week of the month, every month.
Fourth Wednesday.
Fourth Wednesday of every month.
So the motion on the floor is moving the facilities and property management meeting to the fourth Wednesday of the month at 9 PM.
Right.
9 AM.
9 a.m.
I'll do 9 PM.
you leave that for Coney Board.
Yeah,
I'll second.
okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
I remembered what I was gonna talk about, and that's that UWO is moving their MBA, I think it's the executive program up to Fox Cities campus. Their MBA, program.
I know they talked about it.
They're doing it,
They are.
as they said. Yep.
All right, and finally.
Well, you said they talked about it, it seemed like they
I know they had wanted that.
set aside space.
That
They told us
building?
where they were gonna do it, they're gonna do it inside that's sort of on the back burner. We talked about the building and I gave them what I thought would be the cost of the appraisal. It's more than what they thought it would be. But you really want a document that you can make a decision from. You gotta pay for it.
All right, so our next meeting is gonna be August 24th at 9 AM here. Kaufman Building. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Sorry if that's longer because of me, this meeting, right?